Frank Sinatra wasn't just a voice, he was an icon, a legend whose life played out like one of his songs, filled with highs, lows, and unforgettable moments. Hi everyone, Ken here. Today we are visiting Twin Palms, the Palm Springs home of Frank Sinatra. Hit that subscribe button and let's explore this house. Frank Sinatra's life almost ended before it began. Born on a cold December day in 1915, Sinatra weighed a hefty 13.5 pounds and had to be delivered with forceps, which scarred his face and ear. Worse, he wasn't breathing. Declared stillborn by the doctor, he was set aside while his mother was tended to, but his grandmother wasn't giving up. She rushed the lifeless baby under cold water, and with a gasp, Sinatra's life started. A dramatic beginning that foreshadowed the resilience and grit that would define his journey through life. Raised in Hoboken, New Jersey, Sinatra was the only child of Italian immigrants. His mother Dolly was a powerful force in his life, a midwife with a tough edge and influence in local politics. Dolly believed fiercely in her son, though her love could be tough, sometimes too tough. Sinatra's daughter Nancy would later describe Dolly as both the source of his ambition and the iron will that pushed him to succeed. His father Marty, a former boxer turned fireman, was more distant, a quiet figure in the backdrop of young Frank's chaotic childhood. From a young age, Sinatra showed an interest in music. He idolized Bing Crosby and was drawn to the smooth, crooning style of the big band era. At just 15, he received a ukulele from his uncle, a small gift that became his gateway into performing at family gatherings. Though music was his passion, Sinatra wasn't an academic standout. In fact, he was expelled from high school after just 47 days for what his teachers described as general rowdiness. This rebellious streak, combined with his desire to escape the gritty streets of Hoboken, led him to pursue music with relentless determination. In the 1930s, Sinatra's first real break came when he joined a local group called the Three Flashes. He was invited in not because of his voice, but because he had something the others did not, a car. They renamed themselves the Hoboken Four, and in 1935 they won a popular radio talent show, earning a 6-month tour across the US. Though it wasn't exactly glamorous, Sinatra caught the performance bug. He spent the next few years scraping by, singing at local clubs and even working as a singing waiter at a roadhouse in New Jersey for $15 a week. Then came 1939, the year that changed everything. Sinatra, with his slick back hair and dreamy eyes, was spotted by bandleader Harry James. James, who had just left Benny Goodman's orchestra to start his own band, signed Sinatra for a contract for $75 a week. It was with James that Sinatra released his first commercial record, From the Bottom of My Heart, though it sold only a few thousand copies. Still, Sinatra's star was rising, and soon he caught the eye of another bandleader, Tommy Dorsey. In 1940, Sinatra made the leap from Harry James' band to the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra, and this was the turning point. Dorsey's orchestra was one of the most popular in the country, and Sinatra quickly became the band's star attraction. But more than the fame, it was Dorsey's influence that shaped Sinatra into the master vocalist he would become. Sinatra watched Dorsey's technique closely, particularly how the bandleader used breath control to play long, flowing phrases on his trombone. Frank adopted the same style in his singing, learning to take quick, deep breaths so that he could hold long, smooth notes without breaking the flow of the melody. By the early 1940s, Sinatra was ready to strike out on his own, but it wasn't going to be easy. He was bound to Dorsey by a contract that gave the bandleader a whopping 43% of Sinatra's future earnings. Legend has it that mobster Willie Moretti, a man with ties to Sinatra, persuaded Dorsey to release him from the contract with an offer he couldn't refuse. While the truth of the story remains murky, it adds to the mythos that followed Sinatra throughout his lifetime. Now free to launch his solo career, Sinatra quickly took the music world by storm. When he appeared at New York's Paramount Theater in 1942, the Bobby Soxers, young, squealing teenage girls, went wild. They fainted, screamed, and rushed the stage in a phenomena dubbed Sinatra Mania. At the time, the country was embroiled in World War II, and Sinatra's tender, vulnerable voice resonated with young women whose sweethearts were off fighting overseas. Songs like I'll Never Smile Again and Night and Day became instant hits. Sinatra wasn't just a singer, he was the voice of wartime romance, providing comfort and fantasy in a time of uncertainty. With his massive rise in popularity came great fortune, and with that fortune, he set out to build his dream house in Palm Springs, California. In 1947, fresh off signing a $1 million contract with MGM, Sinatra decided he needed a weekend escape from Hollywood's hustle. His destination, Palm Springs, where he had been lured by the stunning desert landscape. Sinatra commissioned architect E. Stewart Williams to design his new home, originally asking for a Georgian-style mansion, but after some convincing, Sinatra opted for a sleek, modern design better suited to the desert climate. The result was Twin Palms, a 4,500 square foot single-story masterpiece, completed with a piano-shaped pool and named after the two towering palm trees that framed the property. Ahead of its time, the architect laid out the interior to have an open floor plan so that the dining room and living area would be unseparated. In the living area, Sinatra had a state-of-the-art record player built into the house which could be concealed behind floor-to-ceiling cabinet doors. The negative space created by this built-in lent itself to a piano alcove where we can imagine Sinatra writing music or perhaps entertaining a very lucky group of friends. Before we move on to the dining area, I want to call out a few specific details, such as the bowed pilasters separating the mullions and the way the ceiling continues beyond each implied space, not only unifying each area but making it feel larger as well. The kitchen was also designed to be sleek, with state-of-the-art appliances hidden in plain view, matching the cabinets in color. Rounding the corner, we'll also find a breakfast room, and though it is minimalistic, this allows for the natural scenery to decorate the curtain wall instead of relying on wallpaper to provide visual interest. Let's head on into his bedroom, where the ceiling and floor are similarly colored, causing the space to feel exaggerated. It has sliding doors that open out onto the loggia, providing easy access to the pool. As the war ended and the 1940s drew to a close, so did Sinatra's seemingly unstoppable momentum. The early 1950s were a rough patch. His voice suffered from vocal cord hemorrhages, his personal life was a mess, and his audience began to dwindle. His marriage to his childhood sweetheart Nancy was unraveling as his notorious affair with screen siren Ava Gardner hit the tabloids. Worse yet, Columbia Records dropped him and his film career was faltering. By 1952, Sinatra's career was at rock bottom. He went from being a superstar to barely being able to fill small venues. Many thought the chairman was finished. But Frank Sinatra was never one to fade quietly. His comeback, like his birth, was nothing short of miraculous. In 1953, he secured a role in From Here to Eternity, not through Hollywood favor, but sheer persistence. He lobbied hard for the part of Angelo Maggio, a scrappy soldier with a tragic end. The role won him an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor and revived his career seemingly overnight. Sinatra, once counted out, was back on top. His acceptance speech was short and to the point, saying, "I am deeply thrilled and very moved." With his acting career revived, Sinatra returned to the recording studio, but this time with a new sense of purpose. Teaming up with the arranger Nelson Riddle, Sinatra crafted a series of concept albums that redefined popular music. Albums like In the Wee Small Hours and Songs for Swingin' Lovers showcased a voice that was now deeper, more resonant, and more emotionally complex. Sinatra had always been a crooner, but now he was an artist, telling stories with his music that captured the full range of human experience, from heartache and loss to swagger and triumph. And then came My Way. Released in 1969, the song became Sinatra's anthem, a defiant declaration of living life on one's own terms. The song seemed to encapsulate everything Sinatra stood for, a man who had faced countless obstacles, personal demons, and public scrutiny, but had come out on top by doing things his own way. Even as the years wore on and his voice grew older, Sinatra's appeal never faded. He continued to sell out shows well into the 1980s and 90s, his name synonymous with class, style, and a certain timeless cool. In 1998, when Frank Sinatra passed away, the world didn't just lose a singer, it lost an icon, a legend whose story was as dramatic, bold, and unforgettable as the man himself. In his own words, the best really was yet to come. What did you think about Frank Sinatra's Palm Springs house? Let me know down below in the comments section, and while you're there, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an exciting episode of This House.